You're watching the Atlanta Braves Fan Show on Fan Media Network. Hello, everybody. I'm Ryan Siegel. I'm joined alongside by Gardie Her, as always. And Gardie, I think I've said this now every episode. We got to go back through the Rolodex to look through this. But it all comes down to this, boys and girls. It all comes down to this. A weekend series, a weekend 3-set against the Mets, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at Truist Park. Big matchup tonight, Max Fried against Jacob deGrom, going off again. The Mets throwing out deGrom and Scherzer in this all-important, division deciding 3-game set, and then throwing Massive out on Sunday against Charlie Morton. So, kind of the battle of the threes, as you and I talked about pre-show. But Gardie, I'm going to run through these scenarios here as we approach playoff time. The Mets currently 1 game up on the Atlanta Braves. And this is a true 1 game. The Mets are 98-58. The Braves are 97-59. Going into this, obviously, with the Mets up 1 game, the Mets also currently lead the season series 9-7, and will clinch the tiebreaker by winning at least 1 of the 3 games. So if the Mets win 1 of 3 games, they own the tiebreaker. So if the records end the same at the end of the year, the Mets will have the head-to-head. So we'll kind of talk through those scenarios real quickly. If the Braves win 2 of 3, that's a great. They're up 1 game. They then have to win out against the Marlins to at least secure that division East Division title. Or they are relying on the New York Mets to lose games to the Washington Nationals. So safe to say you need to win out against the Marlins. On the flip side of that, if the Braves sweep the New York Mets, they only need to win 1 of 3 against the Marlins in order to clinch the division, because they own the tiebreaker. They will be up 2 games on the Mets, and therefore would only need to win 1 of the 3 in Miami in order to clinch the East Division title. Major implications on the line here for this, Gardie. Obviously, looking at the wild card picture, the San Diego Padres are currently ahead of the Philadelphia Phillies for the 2nd spot. Right now, the 1st seed will be whoever is not the East Division champ between the Mets and the Braves. But the Padres are up 2.5 games over the Phillies for that 2nd berth. The Phillies are only a half game or 1 game in the loss column over the Brewers for that 3rd berth. So Gardie, this weekend not only could have major implications going forward for who wins the division, but also could have major implications for who the Braves face if they are to end up in a wild card round.
Yeah, you're right, Ryan. What we got right now is a bowl of hot soup. It's going all over the place. Yeah, you're walking around like, oh, please don't drop this. But you're right. It does all come down to this. It's, leaves are changing. October's tomorrow. It is September 30th. Look, I got my vest on. I'm starting to,
I got a quarter
bundle up,
warming up.
Yeah, exactly. And this is going to be critical, these 3 games against the Mets, as we're seeing their 2 marquee pitchers, which I'm fine with. I think the Braves can beat anybody on any day, no matter where they play. And at the end of the day, the Braves have actually been coming on strong in the season series, winning 3 out of the last 4, to really actually make the season series, that tiebreak, competitive. So there are a lot of positives there. And then with the wild card, it is the definition of who the hell knows what's going on, because as you said, you listed out, the Padres are here. Then you have the Phillies, who are just apparently crumbling in front of everybody's eyes. And then you have these Brewers who came on hot and have, I think, the 2nd best record in baseball coming out of the All-Star break. And they also have some very interesting series coming up for each of them. The Phillies have to play the Nats, but then they have to play the Astros. The Brewers have to play the Marlins and the Diamondbacks. And then the Padres have to play the White Sox and the Giants. So a whole lot of things could happen, and a whole lot of different things could then happen consequently for the Braves. But here's the real skinny on all of this. They just need to beat the Mets, and it's the Mets. And it's not September anymore, Rye. It's October. And if you think they fell apart in September, let me tell you about October.
Hit me with it.
2015.
Need we say more?
No.
That's it. That's the tweet. That's it.
That's the tweet.
That's the stat.
Just remember them falling apart there. But also with the Braves, something to positively look at from a statistical standpoint going into this Mets series, you have 4 everyday hitters pretty much hitting over 300 for the Braves. You have Eddie Rosario hitting 327. You have Michael Harris, the second, the rookie, the stud, the guy with the cool cleats. He's hitting 327 as well, but he has 6 ding dongs. It's a lot of ding dongs in the month of September, and 19 RBIs in 25 games. So he's getting damn near close as a rookie, a guy who played 24 games in Double-A baseball, to being an RBI a day guy. That's pretty good stuff. And then you also have Willie Contreras and Marcell Ozuna both hitting 310, a combined 5 jacks between them. Lastly, the guy that the New York Mets said could never be a major league catcher, Travis d'Arnaud, is hitting 297 with 4 ding dongs. That's my favorite part. I hope he wins another World Series ring. I hope he helps them sweep the Mets so he can just dance on their graves. And then, a little less positive, but Austin Riley and Dansby Swanson, while not hitting very well for average, are hitting for power. So we're in Truist Park. We're at home. They have to come into the belly of the beast.
You're absolutely right. Again, as we mentioned, Jacob deGrom pitching tonight against Max Fried. It's a true 1 versus 1 in that scenario. Obviously, the Braves also beat Max Scherzer last time they faced Max Scherzer in a game. And then it's Max Scherzer taking on Kyle Wright, the Braves 20-game winner, and then Massett and Morton on Sunday. As we mentioned, the battle of the threes. But as you mentioned, Gardie, again, we talked about, Braves pitching, and it's very good. The Braves are 5th best in the entire league in ERA at a 3.43. The teams above them, the LA Dodgers, the Houston Astros, the New York Yankees, and the Tampa Bay Rays. They will only have to face one of those in the playoffs if they get that far. So again, the Braves have very good pitching and have been getting better and more consistent help from the bullpen. But, it's cliche to say it all comes down to this, but it all comes down to this. That the Braves are going to be that 4 seed, or they could be the 2 seed. One means you're playing over the weekend, so you got to go from Miami back home and get ready for your wild card matchup. One, you don't play until October 11th. That's a week off where you can rest everybody, and you're throwing 1s versus 1s in the NLDS.
I mean, hot take though, rest versus rust.
It could be rest versus rust. However, if you're the 4-5 matchup, if you win, you got to go to LA to play the Dodgers. So rest versus rust only goes so far, where your NLDS game 1 would be against the Dodgers, most likely throwing Clayton Kershaw in game 1. So again, it's kind of all up in the air in terms of that. And again, as we mentioned, the Braves win all 3. They have the tiebreaker. They only need to win 1 more. They win 2. They need to sweep the Marlins. It's as simple as that.
Here, just cue up the Al Davis quote, just win, baby. That's all we got to do. I mean, I failed calculus twice in college. I don't need to be doing this math. That's why you're talking all of these numbers. I'm a simple man who just looks at ding dongs, and that's about as much arithmetic as I can do. But we just need to win, and we need to beat the Mets. And also, I think as a fan and as someone who talks about the Braves with you, once a week, it goes a long way to how we would be indicative of our postseason performance is if we were to cap off a 2 out of 3 or a 3-game sweep against the Mets, because that means we then took 6 out of 8 of our last games against the Mets when they clearly had our number at the beginning of the season, or 7 out of 8. And that's a really good feeling and a positive spin going into the postseason, because you don't want to, not, perform middlingly against the Mets. And then, you go and play the Marlins and it's not a good team. So yeah, we just need to win, bottom line.
Absolutely right. But speaking of ding dongs, and we talked about this, and this is just baseball news, let alone Atlanta Braves news. Aaron Judge finally hitting his 61st home run. Yep. Hat tip, tying the American League record. He goes for number 62. He has 6 games remaining to go for number 62. The Yankees are in Baltimore this evening. So 3 against Baltimore in order to try to see if he can hit 62 in Camden Yards, where Roger Maris couldn't hit his 61st in game 154 back in the day, if we want to go through the ancient history of baseball, when commissioner at the time, Ford Frick, said that there would be two separate records, one if he hit it in 154 games, and an asterisk if we hit it in 162 games. Obviously, we all know that he hit it in game 162. So that was considered a separate record until 1991, when commissioner at the time, Fay Vincent, said there is one record, and Roger Maris now is the record holder. But Aaron Judge tying the American League record. Gardie, I know we're kind of up against time, but we got to talk about this. And I think the biggest news of the Judge home run, that fan's got to come down with the ball.
Yeah, let's put some respect on that guy's name because it's hilarious. His name's Frankie Lasagna, and guess he does own an Italian eatery in Toronto. So talk about a guy destined at birth. But talk about just life-changing moment flashing before your eyes. I mean, Major League Baseball has a proud history of fan interactions when it comes to catching balls, obviously,
or lack thereof,
or lack thereof. Obviously of Bartman in Chicago, that image of him sitting there with his Walkman and the little headphones just burned into my eyes. You have Jeffrey Mayer, the guy who allegedly maybe reached over a wall and allegedly maybe made
that was a good home run. Good home run.
It was a home run. All just watch the captain. Look at the I think it's the Diamondbacks player.
Yep.
He's just looking up. He wasn't even going to make a play on the ball, so null and void. But Frankie Lasagna, just talk about fumble in the bag, dropping it into the bullpen. It was given over to Aaron Judge. Judge gave it to his mother. But we really saw history being made, whether you believe in steroids or not. We saw someone hit 61 home runs, something that hasn't been done minus those three, the Bond season, the McGuire season, and the Sosa seasons. We haven't seen. A whole generation of baseball fans are getting brought back into it over this chase, over the aura and the mystique. And by the way, Ford Frick only said there was two records because he was the ghostwriter for Babe Ruth. Talk about being an ultimate homer. But it's incredible to see. He's hitting 314 too. He's vying for the Triple Crown, something that hasn't happened in baseball. Or excuse me, it's happened one other time in baseball since 1967, and that was Miguel Cabrera. So I mean, Aaron Judge is just a special player, and we're seeing that. But more importantly, big game tonight, 7:00, Truist Park. I hope all of you Braves faithful are getting loud, getting rowdy. Yeah, let's throw some chops. Oh. Yeah, get loud, get rowdy. And you know what? Tell us about it. At the end of the day, we are a fan show brought to you by Fan Media Network. So if you have any stories on the road at Truist Park, please let us know. We'd love to hear about it. And let's go Braves.
To host a fan show or appear as a fan on a fan show, create a profile in Fan Media Network. Then look for the news page in our website and fan show resources page. Help yourself. We give show hosts a show graphic in team colors, a simple short show format, tips on pre- and post-production, ideas to get fans and guests on your show, Apple News distribution and show sponsorship sales and services to help featured show hosts earn money. Show hosts use our iPhone app to publish their shows. Our website supports Android users.